Couscous is the Friday food staple in Morocco, and it's pretty simple to make. It's all in the ingredients really. All you need is a good couscous grain, good vegetables and good meat. And of course some couscous spice mix, so we can get that nice and fragrant couscous sauce. First I'm placing the meat in the pot. I like using tomatoes at this point because it'll help me get a nice and red couscous and give it that tart taste from the tomatoes. I'm chopping the onion, but not too finely. The pieces need to be big because they're going to spend a lot of time cooking and we don't want them to completely melt. So I'm getting the onions and tomatoes and adding them to the pot like so. Now I'm taking concentrated tomato paste, adding some oil, about half a cup, then adding the couscous spice mix. And some salt. A nice little bunch of coriander or cilantro. I personally love using coriander more than parsley because it's stronger and it makes dishes much more fragrant. I'm adding a little bit of water, not too much, just enough to brown the meat and vegetables. Then I'm covering all the contents of the pot with enough water to cook the meat and vegetables, which will serve as the garnish for the couscous. I'm going to let this simmer nicely for about 30 minutes on low heat. In the meantime, I'm getting started on the chickpeas. Now I'm taking a piece of muslin and making a pouch to cook my chickpeas in, because this way I don't have to fish them out of the broth after they're cooked. Don't tie the pouch too tight. You should leave some room for the chickpeas to expand. Then I'm putting the pouch in the pot. Now let's get started on the couscous. I chose a medium grain, but you can use a mix of whole wheat and barley grain. Between medium and fine, that works nicely too. No need for oil yet, we're just using water for now. If you follow the steps, you shouldn't get any lumps in your couscous. We're letting this simmer for 10 to 15 minutes, then add in some water. Now for the vegetables, let's see what we have. We're using cabbage, two types of turnip, yellow and white, as well as carrots and pumpkin. I'm putting the cabbage first because it needs to cook longer than the rest of the vegetables. I'm putting it in the broth and then I'm waiting about 15 minutes before adding the turnips and carrots. Now back to the couscous. I'm going to start steaming it. I'm lining a basket with another piece of muslin or gauze and steaming the couscous for 20 to 25 minutes. You should wait until steam starts coming through the couscous grains and then wait another 15 minutes before taking it out. Now I'm drizzling the couscous with a little bit of oil, working that in with a fork, or you can also use your fingers, but just be careful and wait for it to cool a little bit if you're using your hands. Then adding a little bit of water, let it cool down a bit and soak the water in while working the couscous like we've already seen with the oil. Then I'm going to steam the couscous a bit more. Like I said at the beginning, we're going to drizzle and work through the couscous a total of 3 times.
cette opération, il faut la refaire 3 fois.
I've used about 1 tablespoon of oil, and I'm working it through the grains so that each one of them is lightly coated in oil. Now watch what I'm doing next.
Chaque petit grain de matière grasse. Regardez maintenant ce que je vais faire.
I'm salting some cold water.
Saler de l'eau froide.
Stirring to dissolve the salt, and then drizzling the salted water onto the couscous.
On va arroser.
Now I'm working it through with my fingers.
Avec les doigts.
Be careful not to burn yourself. If you want, you can let the couscous soak in the water and cool down a little bit before you start working the water into the couscous. I'm letting it sit for 15 to 20 minutes before putting it back into the steaming basket. Now the couscous is going back in for a second round of steaming. Back to the vegetables. I'm adding in the turnips and the carrot.
Le navet jaune et le navet blanc et la carotte.
I like to use the vegetables whole because this way I can take them out easily at the end and cut them any way I like. Also, if you keep them whole, they stand a better chance at not melting or breaking down in the broth. I still have a small bunch of coriander. I'm adding it with the pumpkin and tomato right before the end. All right, the couscous is cooked. We are going to take it out. And flavor it with some salted fermented butter, or smin, as we call it in Arabic. You can find the recipe for making smin on Shmeicheh TV. We're only using a little bit, just to flavor the couscous, because you don't want to overpower the rest of the flavors. If you don't want to use smin, or you don't have any, you can very well use olive oil for this step instead. One thing that is crucial at this point, don't let the couscous cool down now, otherwise it won't soak in the sauce or the cooking juices from the meat. It is therefore very important to serve and decorate it while it's still very, very hot, steaming almost. Be careful not to burn yourself. As you can see now, I'm digging a sort of nest or crater into the couscous, and that's where the meat and vegetables are going to go. I suggest serving tfaya with your couscous. Here you go, an authentic Friday couscous just like we make in Morocco. Bon appétit!